Hello, I'm Victor, and this is online literature class. Thank you for not scrolling past, and I hope you get to enjoy today's class. Please comment on the video, like or share the video as it helps in improving my visibility. Thank you as I anticipate your support. Now let's get down to the business of the day. In our last class, we started to look at drama as a genre of literature, where we learned that drama can be defined as a genre of literature that involves the imitation of human actions or actions generally on a stage. We also learned that drama as a genre of literature creates or recreates human experiences through dramatization. And finally, we learned that drama has three major components, which are actors, actions, and stage. That's all for the last class. In today's class, we will look at tragedy as a type of drama. We will look at tragedy as a type of drama. Now let's get down to it. Tragedy can be defined as a type of drama that involves serious, painful, tensed situations or events, usually involving death of characters, especially the major character or protagonist, as popularly known in literature. I take the definition again. Tragedy can be defined as a type of drama that involves serious, painful, or tensed events or situations, usually involving death of characters, especially the major character, popularly known as protagonist in literature. In tragedy, as a type of drama, the events in the play are serious and painful, usually sad, that will lead to death of characters, sometimes only one character. A tragedy cannot happen without death. If a play is actually a tragedy play, then there must be death or series of death in that play. And usually, or in most cases, it is actually the major character that will die at the end of the day. The death must involve the death of a major character, person that all events and actions revolve around, the person that the storyline of the play is built around is who we refer to as protagonist or a major character, and he must die in a tragedy play. The situations, as I said, in a tragedy are serious and tense. Usually they are capable of making audience to be sad. Some emotional audience could actually cry while watching a tragedy because blood must be shed and a person must die. Tragedy as a type of drama in literature is of three categories. It is categorized into three. We have classical tragedy, domestic tragedy, and romantic tragedy. Now let's get to know the meanings of all these three categories of tragedy. The first one, classical tragedy, is that type of tragedy that involves nobles or royalties as characters in this play text or in this play a dramatic work. The characters in this dramatic work or a play text are nobles or royalties. By nobles we mean warriors, wealthy personalities, stakeholders in a community, and royalties we mean the king, the princess, the prince, the queen, and other cabinets of a king. The characters in this type of story are royalties and nobles, and it will involve death of a noble or death of a royalty. Usually in a classical tragedy, the central character must be a noble or must be a royalty, and at the end of the day this character will lose his life. A popular example of a classical tragedy is Macbeth by William Shakespeare, where Macbeth as a noble is the central character of the play, and it leads in the play his death actually occurred. The next category of tragedy that we will look at is domestic tragedy. In this type of tragedy, the characters are middle class people or commoners, and the situation around which the storyline of domestic tragedy is written is actually family issues or issues that has to do with commoners, not people of royalty or noble people. Now, the death in this kind of tragedy is not that of a highly placed personality like noble or a royalty. It's just an ordinary commoner, an ordinary person in a society. A popular example of domestic tragedy is A Woman Killed with Kindness by Thomas Haywood. A Woman Killed with Kindness by Thomas Haywood. And the final category of tragedy that we will look at is romantic tragedy. This is a kind of tragedy that involves issues of love. It could either be it could either have characters that are noble and royalties or commoners. The central issue of romantic tragedy is that it has to do with issue of love. It has to do with love. Love is the central theme of this kind of play. And in this kind of play, love will lead to death of a character or characters, especially the major character, as earlier pointed out. A popular example of romantic tragedy is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare still. Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Love affair led to the death of Romeo and Juliet, as their name imply in the play. Their names is actually a euphonymous name because the play is actually named after them. Their love affair led to their death and the death of several others around them. So a romantic tragedy has nothing to do with whether royalty or nobles or commoners. It just has to do with issue of love. It could be among commoners or it could be among highly placed personalities as nobles or royalties. But what is worthy of note is that romantic tragedy is written around subject of love affair. This brings us to the end of today's class. In summary, we have learned that tragedy as a type of drama usually involves serious, tense, and sad events or situations, usually involving death of characters or a character, especially the major character, popularly known in literature as protagonist. And we also learned that there are three categories of tragedy, which are classical tragedy, domestic tragedy, and romantic tragedy. We learned that classical tragedy is that type of tragedy that has nobles or royalties as characters. Example of a classical tragedy we learned that is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. We also learned that domestic tragedy is that type of tragedy that involves middle class people or commoners, and it has to do with family issue. We learned that this type of tragedy, an example of this tragedy is A Woman Killed with Kindness by Thomas Haywood. And finally, we looked at romantic tragedy as the final category of tragedy, where we learned that it is a kind of tragedy that is written or built around issues of love. Example, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Thank you for staying through the class. I hope you've learned something. Please leave your comments, and if you have a question, leave it also in the comment section. Like the video and share, please, as it helps in improving my visibility, as I pointed out earlier. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm Victor. Bye.